Okay, so I'm up late and I was reading the news and I see, oh, there's another silly current event in the news. But I actually think this one's kind of relevant and I think I'm going to talk about this a little bit. It has to do with is identity a social construct or is it something that you adopt yourself? And this has happened a lot in the past where, people didn't really feel comfortable with a certain social group that they grew up in and they yearned to maybe be something else, and that's one thing. But sometimes they would take it really far. Like there was one lady a few years ago, okay, she was claiming to be African American and she clearly is not. And I guess she did it a second time, but I don't know. There was just something that she can't seem to reconcile in her mind that she's not African American. So she was claiming that. So I noticed this is kind of coming up again with Baldwin's wife. Like people are getting really upset because I guess she said she was born in Spain. And I honestly, I don't care. I don't have an axe to grind about this, but I thought I did recall like hearing that she'd been born like abroad. I wasn't sure about that because I don't spend every minute of my day like delving into Alec Baldwin and his wife's background. And okay, maybe she exaggerated her origins, but was she the first person that ever did it? No, she wasn't. And another thing that I just find comical about this is if like somebody had claimed to be born in the UK and then they were outed as being born in the US, would people be as up in arms about this? And I'm like, probably not. I think people like it doesn't really matter where people come from, but if you look at geography, Spain is clearly a European country and people in Spain are clearly they're white people. And this may be as a shock to some people who haven't studied history, genealogy, DNA, haven't taken a DNA test, but a lot of people in Mexico do have Spanish ancestry. Oh, they're part European and part Native American. This is true, okay? This is how we knew that a lot of people who live in the United States proper that are white are not Native American because when they take a DNA test, it comes back 100% white European, okay? Um, Whereas somebody who has some ethnic origin from Mexico, it would come back and they have Native American ancestry. And that was actually how I was able to tell people in my family, no, we have no Native American ancestry, even though there's this weird story floating around that we did, but whatever. Like, yeah, I think these things happen in a lot of people's families or backgrounds where there's a story about where they claim to come from somewhere they're not. Like for me, for myself, okay, I was born in the United States, okay? I have always been honest like about what I am. I'm a quarter Syrian and I'm a 75% European. Like I don't have a reason to lie about that. My last name is Arabic. It's Syrian. Like I have no reason to lie about that. My grandpa was Syrian, born here, but when he went to school, up until like kindergarten, he didn't speak a word of English, and kids bullied him in school because he spoke Arabic. So I never had a reason to lie about those stories. That was my background. But you know what I thought was kind of in poor taste was one time I told somebody I was part Syrian and they told me it didn't count because I was only part. And I thought, well, let's do okay. I never claimed to be born in Syria, right? And that's the thing, like it's like you can't say that you have background from a certain place. Now, I don't know all the details about Hillary or whatever she calls herself, Baldwin. And I guess she wasn't born in Spain. Apparently, she may have misled people to believe that she was born in Spain. But I think a lot of people, I don't know, are they up in arms because they consider Spain more exotic than England? I'm kind of wondering because they're both European countries, okay? Spain and England both did really horrible things like in colonizing around the world, both, okay? Like they are European countries. Catherine of Aragon was from Spain and she married King Henry the I mean, come on. Really? Do people not realize like Yeah, I just don't think that they understand or comprehend or know the world is more intermingled than people think. And I just think in a global world, why does it matter where Hillary Baldwin is from? Like, okay, she misled you, but like, get over it. Like, this is gonna be the most paltry, ridiculous, silly debate of any kind. I mean, I don't know. Are you gonna lose sleep at night because now you know she's not born in Spain? It is interesting that she keeps mentioning her family's in Spain. Maybe she really wanted to be Spanish. I don't know. I don't know anything about her, okay? Like I don't know what her connection is to Spain, but apparently she spent some time in Spain and she feels drawn to Spanish culture. And if she speaks the language and she wants to teach her kids Spanish, like, why does anybody care? Like, there's a lot of people that study languages from places they're not even from, and they teach their children that language because they're linguists. Like, linguists learn multiple languages. Like, some linguists speak several languages, and it's not a big deal. So, I don't really understand at the end of the day why anybody's upset. I mean, do you know her personally? Was she your best friend? Was your life contingent upon her like really being born in Spain? And I think this opens an interesting conversation for everybody because unless you know 100%, you've taken a DNA test and you know all of your ethnic origins, I'm going to guarantee there's probably a story somewhere in your family tree about something, which I found out too with the Native American thing. Um, there's probably a story that people clung to that's probably not completely true because people have affinity for certain cultures. They want to belong to something else sometimes. Sometimes it's just more exciting to them. It makes their life more colorful. I don't know. Like, I don't know the reasons, but apparently, like, for this lady, like, her connection to Spain is really important. But I feel like people are getting a little bent out of shape over nothing because Spain's a European country. Spanish people are white. They're whiter than Italians, okay? Italians actually and Greeks are more like have admixture from the Middle East, right? So I don't know. Like they're getting all bent out of shape because she claimed to be born in Spain. Like what is it that's like getting people all riled up? It's interesting. There's people in Mexico that have Spanish ancestry because Spain was a colonizing country, okay, of Mexico and the Latin Americas, just like England was a colonizing country of North America. And guess what? France, England, and Spain all fought over territories in the Americas. And in the end, it turned out that Spain ended up controlling more. The US ended up controlling more. France was pushed out to some degree, especially up in Canada. Like, if you look, just read the history. Like, these are all, most of these people are from European countries, and everybody's getting their knickers in a twist over somebody who claimed to have, like, lineage from a European country. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they thought she was more exotic because she said she was born in Spain, but it doesn't really matter where anybody's from. But I think right now, people think that being born in Spain is more exotic than being born in England, which is weird. Like they're both European countries. What is everybody all, or is it the fact that she misled people? I don't know what it is, but I think it opens an interesting discussion. Here's my next thought. Are you allowed to identify with any culture that you feel drawn to? Can you And this gets into the whole idea of like cultural appropriation, okay, where some people think now that you can't really be interested in a culture that you don't have a connection to. And I don't disagree. I disagree with that because it used to be considered like an interesting culture in the world if you wanted to learn more about a different country or a different culture. And anthropologists would go in sometimes with funny results. Sometimes anthropologists got things wrong, okay? They would study other cultures. And now it's like, I don't know, is it getting to the point that we're becoming more global? People are more mixed. Like most people in America, okay? In America, in Mexico, in Brazil, other Latin countries are a mixture of things. They're a mixture of European and some other things. Okay. Do you not think so? Maybe you don't know anything about history. I don't know. So everybody's getting their knickers all in a twist about, oh my gosh, like this actor's wife, Hillary, I guess is her name. I didn't even know much about her. I knew I think she might be a vegan, which I thought was kind of cool. The only thing I really knew about her was that she was making some vegan food for her kids. And I'm not even sure she's a vegan anymore. I don't even know. Like, I don't follow her life that precisely. And she seems to have a connection to Spain, even though she wasn't born there. But I'm going to tell you something. If you're an American, if you're a Mexican, if you're a Canadian, you probably have a story in your family tree somewhere far back there. Okay? Just saying. Where somebody said they were something that they might not be. If you're from Mexico, you might have Jewish ancestry because guess what? What was the Spanish Inquisition? Oh, when the Moors left Spain, they started kicking out the Jewish people too. So, like, a lot of Jewish people came to the Americas, right? A lot of Jewish people settled in Mexico, you know? Some people end up finding out, oh, their family, like, concealed their origins and they really were, Sephardic Jews and they didn't know that. Um, there's people in America, like Midwest. This is a popular one. A very popular one. It probably goes back to the Dawes Act, to people wanting to get free land because they were giving Native Americans free land. Well, they took their land. It's so ironic, right? The government, which is another thing where everybody's like, the government always has their best interests at heart. And then you remember what they did to the Native Americans, taking their land, and then later, like, creating these acts saying that they were going to give them back land. And people wonder why there are times when we question the government. Sometimes when people question the motives of the government, I'm not saying the government's evil. I'm just saying you should always be aware of things, like, because of history. Like, if you go back in history and study. So a lot of people in the Midwest of the United States, like, say that they're Native American, and I knew in my family tree, I did not think that story was true, even though they kept saying, oh, this one great grandmother said she was Native American, and I knew she was adopted. I looked at the family tree. She married somebody that, I don't think she really knew him, and she was 13. This was back in like the 1850s. But, people got married young back then. And they said, oh, it's good that you're marrying this older guy. He was 26. I don't know. He wasn't that. But back then, that probably seemed extraordinary. Plus, she was 13. But it was just a really strange story. And then I suspected all along, I don't think she's Native American because we didn't really have like the facial features that are Native American, even though some people said a couple times that they thought I looked, but no, I never saw it. Like, I thought I looked European, Middle Eastern. That's what I thought. And it turned out I was right. But I don't know, some people in my family, like, they were devastated. Like, it kind of goes back to Elizabeth Warren too. I don't think, like, no offense to Elizabeth Warren, but I don't really think she has much Native American ancestry, but she seemed very drawn to that story and her background. Like, there's a lot of people, they're drawn to a story. They don't really know, like, their exact ethnic origins, because if you live in a country in the New World, you tend to have a mixed lineage. Brazil is even more so. Like, Brazil is similar to the United States, where a lot of people have very mixed backgrounds and they don't know their exact ethnic origins unless they've traced all of their family trees or taken a DNA test. And at the end of the day, okay, so a celebrity's wife wasn't born in Spain. Like, even if she had been, I guess the only difference really was she would have grown up speaking a different European language than being a white person in Boston, because Spaniards are white and she's obviously white. She looks kind of like a Spaniard. She has brown hair. A lot of them have blonde hair. I mean, what are people complaining about? Like, really? It's not like, I get it. Like, she felt like drawn to Spanish culture, but I think people are putting more emphasis on this than what is. And I think it's just gotten to the point that people like, I don't know, they're like ashamed of what their ethnic origins are. Okay, so you're a white guy from the Midwest, big deal. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you've been nice to everybody and you're not a racist, I don't think it's a problem. Just like it's really cool to be African American or Asian, but I think it's gotten to the point that people, they just want to be something else because they feel like it makes them more exciting, maybe. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of weirdness. Like, people are so weird about ethnicity and race. It's a social construct at the end of the day. It's something that society creates for itself. Like, if you had a group of friends when you're in high school and you all guys all got along and I don't know, you played a game or something, like, did you care about what your ethnic origins all were? Usually not. Like, you were united in playing that game, and then let's say there was somebody else that didn't play that game, like they weren't part of your group. Like, there's different kinds of groups, like, and we attribute too much importance to social constructs, which is like basically what these things are. We're all human beings, but it's good to like be proud of where you come from and to be proud of what you are and things. And like, I'm proud of what I am too, but I think people get weirded out when somebody like says that there's something that they're not, or they exaggerate or they embellish. But I think if people went back into their background a little bit more, they would realize that she's not the only one. She's not the only person that's ever done this. I mean, it seemed like she was really, really, really stretching to say, well, my family is in Spain right now. And I kind of get it. I think what she's saying is they've spent a lot of time in Spain, and she spent a lot of time in Spain. She did speak Spanish growing up part of the time. So she feels a connection to that culture. And that's fine. Like, who cares? At the end of the day, like, is she your best friend? Like, I don't know. If somebody was your best friend and they told you every day of their life that they were born in Brazil, and then you found out one day that they weren't, and they're like, you guys had some deep connection with each other to Brazil, then maybe you'd have a reason to feel disappointed. But if you're just some person who doesn't really know somebody in the general public, I mean, you can wonder why, but here's another thing too. You're kind of a weirdo if you're going to her Instagram account and like badgering her about it. Like, I just think that's weird. I'm like, there literally were people telling her that she was a liar, but like they thought they were so witty and funny. And I'm like, this is another reason that I just don't get people being obsessed with the lives of celebrities, because okay, so a celebrity does A, B, and C, that doesn't mean that they're God, and it doesn't give you the right to harass the celebrities. What? I don't know. Like, focus on yourself. Like, anybody that feels the need to comment on somebody's Instagram account that was famous and you don't know that person, it's kind of weird. Okay? It's just weird. You don't need to. Like, leave her alone. Like, okay, you found out she wasn't born in Spain. But at the end of the day, you're kind of crossing the line if you need to go tell somebody that, like, anything hateful to that person. It's dumb. Like, society's wacky woodle. Like, I know somebody accused me the other day of like being socially, like, having antisocial thoughts, but you know what? Maybe it's because it's stuff like that. Like, when people do things like that, that kind of bothers me. Like, I feel like people are harassing her. So stop harassing her. Like, okay, she might be a celebrity, but yeah, if you went to her page or anybody's page and you say something to them, you're harassing them. Like, stop it. Like, do you have nothing better to do? Is lockdown life that sad for you? Are you that sad in the lockdown life that you need to go write weird comments on somebody's page that you don't know, especially just because it's a celebrity? Like, if it was a rent, okay, here's another thing. Here's another example. Let's say everybody was in a DNA group doing genealogy research, and there was this person that said, I'm Norwegian. I'm Norwegian. My ancestors are Vikings, and they would come on every day and post Viking, I don't know, artifacts and things like that and talk about their Viking roots. And then one day, somebody who has an axe to grind will go rifling through that person's account, and they're going to find out, oh, that person's not really a Viking, they're English, and they're going to post that on, I mean, would people like in a flurry all go together and post on that person's page. No, they wouldn't. Not to that extent. People are just harassing Alec Baldwin's wife because she's famous and they think it's cool. I don't know. It's weird. Society's really weird sometimes, and this is not like, I don't think it's antisocial to say things like that, but there's a lot of things that are just kind of odd. Like, here's another thing. Like, I don't think the government should tell people not to socially gather. I don't think that they should turn off water of individuals who can't seem to stop going to nightclubs and or underground nightclubs. Like, it's kind of like, I don't know, our version of prohibition. Now, I don't think the government should fine people for those things or turn off water or things like that. But yes, the government should give out a health recommendation that COVID-19 is contagious, which it is. And I do think it's weird, like, when people, like, instead of just staying home, like, and when I mean staying home, I mean, like, within your general facility, like, vicinity, like, maybe, like, at your house, like, go buy food at the grocery store, but come home. You don't need to go on a weekend trip. But a lot of people did, like, up to the local mountains. A lot of people were up there and they were socializing and they were hanging out. And yeah, they were gathering. And that's dangerous because they're going to spread the virus. And I don't think we need the government to tell people that that was wrong, but that was wrong. Like, there's a lot of people that they really don't care right now. But, they should know, like, I'm not saying that those people should be fined or anything like that, but I think just if you're worried about your fellow person, you're not going to be doing all that kind of behavior, right? And then same with, like, I just think it's wrong to go to a famous person's wife's social media page and, like, harass them because a lot of people have similar stories in their family tree too. This is kind of a silly story. Were we bored today? Like, how bored were people today? Pretty bored, I guess, because I at the end of the day, I'm not really sure what that accomplished. You see. And that's another thing too. Like, I believe in, like, supporting people and being kind to people and, like, sharing knowledge or just entertainment or being nice, not being, like, just mean. There was no point to any of that behavior. And I don't think anybody who went to this person's page and said something mean proved anything or did anything or improved society in any way. Yeah, I don't know. These are just my thoughts. These are strange times, but it just seems like people don't really worry about other people so much anymore. They worry about whatever random thing pops up in their mind that day. Anyway, thanks for watching.